In the next hour, we want to put a smile on your face, elevate your endorphins, and bring you happiness. Welcome to Say Yes, Be Happy with Nathalie Botros. We spend so much of our lives chasing happiness, it might just be where you least expect it to be. Nathalie and her guests are going to show you how and where to find it. And now, your host, Nathalie Botros.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host, the Bon Vivant girl and self-proclaimed happiness fairy. Today, we're going to talk about health and being happy with health and finding the right road to our health. You know, everybody says you are what you eat. Did you ever wonder what does that mean? I mean, like, do we have to eat something skinny to be skinny, or do we, if we eat nuts, are we going to get nuts? I wondered. I even wrote a book about it, which was called If You Are What You Eat, Should I Eat a Skinny Girl? And to discover like really what is all about, what is the right food for you, what is the best way to lose weight, and what is the way to do it without losing your appetite for life. My guest today, she's really a specialist about finding the right path for you, not only with food, but with everything. She has a very holistic approach. She's a precision wellness specialist. So let me talk a little bit about my guest. She has an extensive experience, not only in fitness, medicine, physics, holistic nutrition, cultural health, and genetics, but also in plants and their practical uses in different cultures that we call ethnobotany, as well as nutrigenomics and biochemistry. Having served as a clinical director in medical settings and nutritionist formulary behind the scenes and the food industry, her message for holistic health packs significantly more power than simple theory. Her ability to merge physical, mental, and emotional health, utilizing both ancient traditions with future health systems, offers achievable transformation. She specializes in crafting individualized health solutions that build strong bodies, optimize career performance, and limit the potential for physical, mental, and emotional health obstacles. She is also a product innovator and a brand developer. Please welcome my guest, Wendi Michelle. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you today? Thank you so much for having me, by the way.
Thank you for coming to my show. I'm like so excited because like, we're going to learn so much with you. So first of all, I even asked myself, what is a precision wellness specialist? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, happy to. It's somewhat of a term that I had to coin or at least come up with to explain what I do, because health is so much more than just nutrition or just movement or the things that we think of when we go out to do a Google search of, I need to get healthy. And what I found after working with people for so long is that they're just used to these fragmented pieces of health. Okay, well, if I can just get my diet right, then I'll be good. If I could just sleep better, then I'm good. But that's a lot of different coaches. That's a lot of different people with their hands in the pot. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so precision wellness is really, to me, what is my favorite part about health is the individual. It's getting to know the individual person, what that person needs specifically across all different aspects of their life: stress, sleep, hormones, genetics, epigenetics, movement, and their personal goals and lifestyles, emotional intelligence. All of that stuff plays a role in health. And so a precision wellness specialist is someone who can get very precise quickly and adapt over time in order to achieve a very personalized health program for somebody to implement and maintain, because sustainability is very important for health. Mm-hmm. So they're able to sustain it long term because it's kind of like surgery, where we refine over time until it's something that they can keep forever. So that's in essence what that is.
Okay. And so how did you decide to become one? Because you had like all those expertise and you said, I have to create one where I can use all of them.
I wish it had come that easy. I actually had no intention on doing health and wellness at all as a child. But I did eventually learn about the human body in high school. And I was fascinated by just the strength of our bodies and ability that we have when we apply certain things to our environment. I didn't know it in those terms at the time, but I was very interested in experimenting with things and going, well, if I do this with my food, or if I do this with my sleep, what happens? And creating like a measurable experiment. Eventually, I got into nutrition and supplementation through the fitness industry. So I was a fitness competitor for a couple of years and really living that lifestyle. You know, my diet was perfect. Everything was on point. And still, I started to not feel well. And I couldn't figure out why, because I, at that point, was probably a self-professed expert, which I am the opposite of now, because I feel like the more you learn, the less you know. And I started having like stomach issues. And so I was little by little going, okay, let me learn about the gut, you know, and this was before anybody was talking about the gut or gluten for that matter. So I was kind of applying that mindset, and I was, you know, little by little getting better. But then over about 3 months period of time, I ended up completely paralyzed. I couldn't walk. I was having seizures. I had mini strokes. I mean, name a symptom, I literally had it. And so as each one came up, I would go to my doctor or I would see a specialist, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. So I had to go get textbooks and research and learn each of these individual aspects. Okay, why can't I walk? What is that pain? Where is that coming from? Okay, why do my joints hurt? Where is that pain was coming from? And so little by little, I was learning all these different elements of life. Also, where could this have come from environmentally? Did I eat something weird? Did I get exposed to something? So then I was assessing the external components of my health. And then I was looking internally. Am I mad about something? Because, you know, traditional Chinese medicine says that if you suppress anger, your liver's on fire. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I just want to walk again. Eventually, I made my way through pretty much every specialist that there was with no help, unfortunately. And I found natural medicine. And I really did not believe that it was going to be helpful. I thought they were just going to be another place to write, you know, send me an invoice so that I would be bankrupt. But lo and behold, it actually is what helped me. And it was that shift of the power of the human body when it comes to healing that changed the game for me. And I thought to myself, as a personal trainer, as a nutritionist, how did I not know these things? And how could I ever even charge somebody again to tell them this much of this much that I now know, but I know I still don't know anything. So I spent 5 years researching all of the different elements of health down to like culture, where somebody lives, the genetic expression of emotions that have been passed down from generations. All these things I didn't know were influencing me subconsciously. Most people don't know this. So it was through healing my own body, and but specifically not just with the goal to be better, but I had this fury for humanity. I was furious because I thought, I know the questions to ask. And I'm kind of, you know, I'm a little stubborn when it came to, because I just wanted to get better. But what about the people who are just exhausted and they don't have the questions to ask? Who is speaking up for them? Who is teaching them? And that is how it evolved into knowing all these different things, because then I eventually felt comfortable taking on clients again. And then as each one brought a new component of their life, their individual experience, their individual condition or problem or concern, I dove deep into research, the same for every client as I did for myself. No, going into it like, I don't know. I don't know. Let's find out together. Let's explore together. And I feel like that is one missing component in the health space, is all of these experts who actually have never met the person on the other line.
Of course.
So anyway, so that's how it all came about, was just through my own experience and just going, we have to do this different.
Yeah. And like you managed at the end to heal yourself. And right now you're healing all your patients. You're being, in a way, the detective of health.
Yes.
You know, like most of women like me, we had like at some moment some hormonal problems. But when you go to a doctor, I know always they say, you're perimenopausal, you're this, you're that, but they don't even listen to you. So really, we all need someone like you to listen exactly about our symptoms, because maybe I'm not perimenopausal, maybe I have something else.
Mm-hmm.
And you come in there to discover that with us.
Yeah, and that's key with you, because it's not, to me, it's not a solution if it creates more problems or creates dependency.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I know it's easier to just say, somebody please tell me what to do. But that's also why I think people are always reaching for an external source when our source is our instinct. We were born with an innate understanding of what it is we need, but we've just been kind of taught that we have to go to the experts. What I think the ideal scenario is to have somebody walk alongside you who knows enough to teach you how to ask the questions, and also to teach you that you have permission to ask these questions. I don't care how many degrees somebody has. I don't care how much somebody's been to school. You have permission to ask them all the questions and demand answers, because it's your body, not theirs. And that's
Totally
something that's
agree.
powerful to
Yeah.
teach people. But we have to do it together. I don't just tell somebody, this is what you're going to do. We go explore together. And that's the most fun part of what I get to do.
So let's say I'm coming to you and I'm telling you I have hormonal problems, or I have, let's say, hormonal problems. What are the steps that you follow with your clients? How do you start working with them?
So I have a very lengthy intake form, which is just, it's truly conversational. I think there's a lot to be said for, and you touched on it briefly just a moment ago, being heard. So a lot of it is questions that seem irrelevant. So a lot of times people will say to me, I'm just looking about my hormones. Why are you asking me about my great grandmother and what she ate for breakfast? But all that stuff matters. So I do an extensive intake form, and there's so many little clues in there about what might be going on. And let's say it is a hormone imbalance. I don't care if that's what it is. I don't even care if there's a real quick fix for that. I want to know, how did it get imbalanced?
Yeah.
Because
What made the switch?
yeah, yes, because it's in that space where it's like, that's the true like spot to dig into. That's the, if this was a garden and we were looking to plant something, you want to plant it in that soil. What happened? Why were you stressed? Why did you feel like you had to carry the burdens of everybody at your job? Where did that come from? Let's dig there. Let's dig out what's not true. Let's get rid of the dirty soil. Let's put some new, fresh truth in there. And then that's where we plant our seeds. That's where we grow. And I feel like that is the one of the other differences between what I do and most people do, is simply going, oh, well, there's a hormone imbalance. Yeah. Do you know that most girls who are ages 11 to 13 are already out of balance hormonally? It has nothing to do with age.
Of course.
It has so much more to do than that. So identifying the areas of that is, through the discovery period, is what I do. And then the next step is I do different lifestyle adjustments in drip feeds. And what that means is instead of going, okay, here's your program and it's 10 pages long, and let me know if you have any questions, I'll meet once a week with my clients and go over one element of their ultimate protocol. So we might start with food. We might start with movement. We might start with emotional health. It's so based on the individual and what I feel like is going to get us to some level of success fastest, because we need to see that what we're doing matters and it's working. So I'll determine that based on the person. And then we go through it ranges from 12 to 15 weeks of little changes. So, okay, we got the nutrition down. Let's talk about sleep. Okay. And then what's cool is at some point in time, it kind of just all starts lining up.
Yeah, it goes automatically.
Yeah, because it's like you get those once you get the one thing, the two things, the three things down, Well, now all of a sudden, before we even started talking about herbs or different, medicine to help correct, or nutritional implementation to help correct the hormones, they're already rebalancing themselves. We don't even have to do it, which is so awesome.
That's amazing. So it's you take one by one every element of the person.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very holistic approach, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that like summer is around the corner, and people like now, like most of the listeners, they want to like lose weight fast. And the question is, I mean, not the question, I want to talk a little bit about bio-individuality, which is basically no diet fits all, because we're all different. Can you tell us about that, about, health and food and what people should eat or not eat? How do they find that?
Yes. So I love this question, because this is like just the heart of what I do, that no, there is no such thing as the best diet. That is a creation of the food industry, and the diet and wellness industry is to say, here's the new thing. And then people walk around feeling like they are, they're not part of the program, and now that's to blame. And then they have guilt and shame that they have on themselves because the diet that worked for everybody else doesn't work for them. I mean, it is so overwhelmingly annoying because every person, based on how they everything from how they perceive the world to how they feel about themselves, to their genetics and culture, to where they live at the present moment, determines how their body is going to actually take in food, assimilate food, break down the food, absorb the food. What they do for a living matters. There's no one way to do it. And that's so bio-individuality is being able to look at somebody's food, their nutrition, their how they eat, and go, oh, okay, here's what's best for you. And here's the seasons that we're gonna cycle it through, because it's also seasonal. What works today for this particular season, come wintertime, it won't be the same, because we're so connected to the earth. We're so connected to our environment around us that when the winter comes and the trees change and all the animals change and the food changes, so does our microbiome. So we have to get very specific to the individual for them to be successful. There is no one size fits all diet at all.
Oh,
ever.
That's amazing. We're going to soon take our first break, but before the break, like we have a minute, so you say like the seasons. I know that from what I learned at school is you have to eat the fruits or vegetables of the season, because otherwise like it creates an imbalance. I guess you're talking about that when you say like you have to find the right food.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. And then you ask your clients to create a journal, to like, do they do homework? I think we should talk about that after the break. If they need to do, I propose them to create a food mood journal where they put everything, every detail. And I want to talk about this just after the break. Everything.
It's hard to get it all in, for sure. So I feel like the main stuff, which I'm so thankful that we're talking specifically around the diet and the bio-individuality. I think that's something that is key just in health overall, is people going, no, like I am like a one of a kind, that feeling of significance, and that, I shouldn't be eating the same thing as everybody else because there's none like me.
Of course.
Instead of feeling like I'm less than, or I'm not as good as, going, no, like I'm a limited edition.
It is. It's like you're unique. Like it's beautiful to be unique, but unfortunately, everybody hears about, oh my God, like the new diet is keto. So everybody tries to do keto. Keto can be great for some people, but can be really bad for some other people. Or being a vegan. I know that I cannot be vegan. I need to have my animal protein. But I know that for some people, it makes wonders. So you have to just define what is good for you, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't think that that's taught enough, where people feel confident to sit at a table and say that.
Of course. And, people see on TV, on all those magazines, the latest like Stars diet, and they're like, oh, I have to do that, because like they hear, as you said, like so many people lost weight on it, I should wait. And then like when they don't lose weight, they feel bad about themselves. They hate themselves. And then so what they do to compensate, they eat even more.
Yeah.
and they gain even more weight. And then it's like the vicious circle. And then like until they hear about the next magical diet that worked for others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they're all looking for, just for like the basic results, but they're deserving of what is for them specifically.
Yeah.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host, and we're talking with Wendi, who is a precision wellness specialist. We were talking just before the break about bio-individuality, and I was asking her how someone can find the right diet for them, and she was talking about that.
Yeah. And so we were just discussing that everybody has their own food that's going to be ideal for them, that is based on every aspect and element of their life and their goals. Some people are trying to put on muscle, some people are trying to lose weight, some people are, there's so many different aspects and elements that go into assessing what is the best diet. And in the process of doing so, it's critical to know what is working and what's not working. And so that's where like the tools like that you mentioned would come in, a journal where people are actually writing down what they've eaten and how they feel. I think that is awesome. And that's definitely a way to help people get connected, back to what it is that they're eating and how it correlates. Because believe it or not, most people have no idea how much what they're eating is affecting how they feel. They just have been told, we've all been told that as we age, a number of things will happen to us. And so when it starts to happen to us, we shouldn't question. For sure, it's not the food. For sure, it's not whatever, diet we're consuming. It's just age. And that's one of the biggest lies that there is. It has nothing to do with just aging. There is a process to aging, but what we eat determines how well we age, what we're consuming. So helping people to reconnect with the fact that, oh, I guess I didn't notice that on the days when I go out to lunch and I have that sandwich that I love, I'm exhausted the rest of the day. I thought that was just getting older. So I do love, and I usually I check in with my clients on a daily basis because I think relationship is so key. Mm-hmm. Not so much accountability, but like, hey, you're not in this alone. Like, we're going to do this together. But I'll check in with them daily, just see how things are going. And also ask them to write down what they've eaten or what comes to mind. I try to get them to reconnect with those the little thoughts that you have, like the knowing where you're like, I don't know why I think this, but those are important. Write those things down.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't ignore them. Write those things down. So that's one way that I help people, or I tell them to start getting reconnected with their innate knowing. Like, they are the smartest, most intelligent person when it comes to their body, and that should never be outsourced.
Of course. I mean, I know that I call them happy foods and unhappy foods. And mm-hmm. happy food, it doesn't mean that it should be kale or a salad or a smoothie. Your happy food can be a piece of meat or even a glass of wine. It's okay. But I mean, seriously, but people, they don't get that. And we have to, as you say, listen to ourselves mm-hmm. and say, like, if I eat pizza, for example, I like it, but it doesn't like me. So listen to your body. Listen why this pizza doesn't like you, and like why you don't feel good. You feel tired or you feel bloated. It means that something in this pizza, it's not working for you. So I'm not saying don't eat pizza, but work around, find like which elements, and where Wendi comes in and then helps you.
Yeah, because it can feel overwhelming. And also there is, whether we want to admit it or not, there is very much an emotional element to how we react and work and live with food. There's a lot of things that in our upbringing, when we were very small, before we really could understand how to express ourselves or even what these emotions are that we're feeling, we started attaching different emotions to food or to rejecting food. And figuring out what those things are, and then just going, okay, why do I know that pizza doesn't like me. Let's say they get to that point, right? I know pizza doesn't like me. Why doesn't it like me? The next question then is, so why do I keep going for pizza? We've already established this is an unhealthy, toxic relationship. Why am I still having pizza? Is it really a happy food, or is it filling a different void that I'm allowing? And there's an emotional component that people don't really, because it's kind of like taking your best friend, even though it's like you will say all day that your best friend talks too much or whatever, but somebody else tries to say it and you're like going to defend them. That's how people get with their food. I'm sure you've experienced this as well, but it's an emotional element that we have to just look it in the eye and go, okay, whatever is happening in my life, whether I have a disease or a condition or a health issue, or I just want more, I want more energy, I want more life, I want more joy. Those things matter more to me than whatever this pizza is doing, or those, that's where my happy is. My happy is the things that I desire, and I have access to that. So am I willing to negotiate for myself? And that's key, because some people in that moment go, for whatever reason, I'm not willing to negotiate for myself.
Yeah.
So and that's where the digging goes.
Yeah. So basically, like, learn how to dissociate this feeling that the pizza between you and pizza, and say that pizza is not going to fulfill your life. And some people, like they said, I'm going to be on a diet the whole week, and on the weekend, I'm going to get a pizza as a reward. Like, food shouldn't be your rewards. Like, we're humans. We don't need rewards. Like, your reward is like you feeling good. You're feeling happy. So really, people should learn how to find that little difference, which makes a big change in your health, basically.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about nutrigenomics. I want to know, what is it, and like, how does it impact our life and our health?
Yeah. So nutrigenomics is how nutrition and genetics, that's the relationship between nutrition and genetics. Mm-hmm. So we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier around the individual person and why somebody would need specific foods one way, and somebody else, would, need foods in a different way, because how our genes express themselves. So we have genetics, and then we have what's called epigenetics. And epigenetics is the expression of the gene based on the environment around us. So just because you have the genetics for, I don't know, diabetes or cancer, doesn't necessarily mean that your genes are going to express that. What's going to determine if it gets expressed is your epigenetics, the environment. And one of the components of the environment is nutrition. So different foods that you eat, depending on like the genetic layout of your body, is gonna determine, are you able to absorb iron? Are you able to methylate folic acid? Can you do those things? Do you have the genetic disposition or makeup in order to assimilate certain nutrients? Some people don't. Some people are not able to methylate folic acid, so they actually have to take a different version of it. Some people are not able to absorb iron, or they absorb too much iron. So identifying these different areas of somebody's genetic makeup, which, thankfully with technology, we're able to do this now, and then look at the different markers on their genes. We can get really precise about which foods to make sure get incorporated and which foods we eliminate, because we know that their body is not set up to, process it properly, and in turn could be causing some significant health problems at a cellular level that they may not be able to diagnose yet, but internally they feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how do we discover, like with technology, you say we come to see you, we have to go to a specialist, like how does it work?
So there's a lot of genetic companies, like 23andMe is probably one of the better known ones, where you actually can have, it's a saliva test usually with like a swab, or you spit into like a little container and you send it away, and then it gives you a report where it talks about all the different genetic markers that you have in your lineage. And then from that data, there are some companies that you plug that data in It's like there's platforms. There's a company called Pathway Genomics, and they do this really well, where the report that they send back to you specifically says you have this marker, and it's in like proper English, so it's like very easy to understand. Okay,
Yeah.
so I can't methylate it, or it's likely that based on your genetic makeup that you're going to do better with a lower fat diet, not a low fat diet, but that if you're going to eat more of these fats than these fats because of this blueprint, we'll call it,
That
your
you have,
genetics is
yeah,
like a
your
blueprint.
genetics. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a couple of different companies that do this really well. So usually what I'll do, if they don't have a 23andMe genetic report already done, then I'll help them decide which service to do with that. And then I'll be able to take that information that they get and then apply it to the overall assessment of their nutritional profile and how we create strategy around eating based on their genetics.
Okay. For example, if my family, it's like my family all battled with weight, will I need to always fight with weight, or like is there ways to change it?
Yes. Well, that's the power of
Exactly.
epigenetics, and I love that, because most people are like, well, my aunt, my grandma, it's just part of what, and that's not true. It isn't part of who you are unless you agree to it. So the first thing is you have to decide, no, that's actually not, I'm not going to let that gene express itself. So I'm going to implement lifestyle practices that will keep that gene turned off. And we know that we can do this, genetically speaking, with the different foods that we eat and the environments that we're in, that we can actually keep genes turned off, or we can turn genes on, where there's lots of studies where they've looked at identical twins, and one is expressing like just high cholesterol, diabetes, all the things, weight, obesity, and then the other twin is like fit and like active and full of energy and no diabetes or high cholesterol to be found. So how did that happen? Epigenetics. One of them said, I will adopt a lifestyle that will not allow these genes to turn on. And the other one had a lifestyle that was conducive to those genes fully expressing themselves. So yeah, it's powerful.
It's powerful. And I know that for some people it's bad news, because like they can always blame their genetics. They cannot blame it anymore.
Sorry.
You have to take charge of your life, basically.
Yes,
like you cannot
absolutely.
just blame everything and everyone and every diet and your genetics.
Nope.
Yeah. So let's talk about what I'm fascinated. I was telling you this before the show, the ethnobotany. Can you tell
Yes.
us what it is, and then like how does it impact us, our lives, and our health?
Yeah. So ethnobotany is really, in like the simplest way to describe it, is the human's relationship with the plants around them, the vegetation around them in the different region that they live in. So understanding what practical uses we have for this plant or that plant, and knowing how to prepare them for whatever it is that we want to use it for. And we see this in things like traditional Chinese medicine. They have gotten ethnobotany down to a science. They use all of the different plants and herbs that grow in the different regions to treat different ailments. That's what they've been doing for centuries, since the beginning of time. Same in India, Ayurvedic medicine and nutrition is the same, where they're very much connected to this food does this. They are more into the balancing of the doshas. So it's like melons will balance out a pitta, but it's going to aggravate a kapha. Like there's different things about how that particular culture works with the plants, but those are all examples of ethnobotany. And then more progressive, we have the example of pharmaceutical companies. So people, how did aspirin come about? Like, did they just go in a lab and be like, we think these chemicals essentially will create this anti-inflammatory mechanism? No, we had a plant called a white willow tree that when they took the bark off of it, it caused all the inflammation in people's bodies to be minimized. Pain would go away. Before they had a microscope and could explain it in more scientific terms, they just knew if somebody in the tribe is hurting, go to that tree, get that bark, apply it this way, either steam distillate it or cook it or make a tea out of it or make a poultice out of it or whatever the application is, do that, they'll feel better. Well, and then, fast forward to more modern medicine times, they've taken that information from ethnobotany, identified the active components of the white willow bark tree, which is the example that we're using. And then we have aspirin. So almost everything in pharmaceuticals has been inspired by, I wouldn't go so far as to say is better than, but I will say has been inspired by nature. That's where it was nature's original idea. And then they've taken pieces of it, added onto it so that they can specifically patent it. Because otherwise, if it's just as nature provides, it cannot be patented. So that's very important to understand. And it's also why I have such a deep level of respect and honor for plants and herbs and food, because they have all been designed to treat us medicinally on every level.
And you cured yourself with those herbs and plants, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You managed to walk. You were saying that you couldn't walk. You managed. Yeah. You really, like, it really helped you. So it's very powerful, and people don't really get it. Sometimes when they get the supplements, they think that it's just a supplement. It doesn't have any effect. Actually, they have like a lot of effects.
Yes. It has to do with the manufacturing also. And that's something I think it's important for people to understand when it comes to supplementation as well, that we do need to hold different companies accountable, all the companies, but the ones that we're purchasing from, we need to look, do they offer a certificate of insurance? How are they extracting this I don't know,
herbs,
herb or tree or whatever? How are they doing that? And how do they make sure that there's not contaminants? How are they ensuring that we have the best quality? Is it being grown in a lab, or is it being grown in the soil that it was originally intended to grow in, which is essentially also ethnobotany? Those things are some of the reasons why when people buy supplements, they don't feel ineffective. They don't think it's doing anything because it's very poor quality.
Of
and
course.
It's mostly fillers with like a tiny bit. And really, it goes back to like the diet conversation. There's no one supplement right for everyone.
Of course.
One person's going to heal from it. The other person's going to feel nothing, and it's going to be junk to them because it's not a blanket solution. Nature is way too intelligent to just give one catch-all. We have just such intelligent bodies. We need to work alongside nature and know that we are getting the most pure version of that so that it can actually help facilitate whatever our goal is.
Yeah, I mean, like, I had this experience with turmeric once. Turmeric is great. I was like, okay, I have to take turmeric pills, like supplement. And I kept like taking them. And I was like feeling like kind of like almost fainting. My blood pressure was like up and down. I was like, what is happening? And when I went to see the doctor and I said, I'm just taking turmeric, she goes like, why? I'm like, because it's good. Like, I read it everywhere. It's good. She goes, well, you don't need it. It's like, you don't need it. And like, you have to like really take it off from your diet, like put it in your food when you eat, when you cook. But yeah, it's not very, it seems good, but it wasn't good for me. Mm-hmm. We're going to take our second break, and after we'll continue talking with Wendi.
I love that, especially about the turmeric part. I think that's a perfect example of what we do, where we're like, if a little bit is good, then a lot must be better. And it's just not true. Yeah. It's not true. And it was affecting you differently because you were taking it in a supplement form, because it was an extraction of, when you manufacture supplements or really anything, there's a procedure that you have to go through for food safety regulations. And what that does, it breaks down the chemical structure, the molecules themselves. And sometimes it actually minimizes some of the beneficial elements of it and maximizes some of the not so beneficial elements, but it's done, for safety. So then you take the pill, and even if it's an organic version of it, because of the different processes it's gone through, your body hardly even recognizes it. So you're always better to go with keep it the way nature provided. Only if you can't get it in a pill form or something, then, there's supplements, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. And there's also the way afterwards I learned all that. like how the pill is prepared, the coat on it, because like some of them they're like good, some of them are bad, apparently, right?
Yeah, and it all comes down to pricing. When people say, well, I just get the cheaper version of whatever, you have to know you are getting the cheaper version of nature. That is the way it works. Supplements are it's such a competitive market. Unless somebody has a level of integrity and is like, I want to do this the right way, those people will put it all over their bottle. They'll have it all over their website. They'll talk about it specifically, how they do they air dry it or whatever they do differently. They will announce it. And you're much better off paying for it, because then you'll get better doses.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host, and we're talking with Wendi Michelle about health, bio-individuality, about finding the right diet and lifestyle for you, because it's not all about diet, it's about the lifestyle. And just before the break, we were talking about ethnobotany, and she was telling us how to choose the right plants or the right supplements for you. And here we are, we're back. So during the break, we were talking with Wendi about choosing the right, if you want to, get like supplements, herbal supplements, choosing the right one. And she was saying that you shouldn't just go for the cheaper one, right?
No, it's cheaper for a reason. And it's not because the ones that are more expensive are trying to, get one over on you. The reality is that it's very, that nature, especially in preserving its original design during a manufacturing process, is very expensive. And some of these superfoods that are, when they're grown in the proper soil in the proper area, maintaining the integrity of that means that there's not a high volume. I mean, if you think about how many supplement shelves there are and how many stores you go to in person and online, you have to start thinking about what the actual quantity of food that is. And so we'll just go back to using turmeric as the example. How much turmeric would you actually have to grow to be able to make all those gummies and all those capsules and all? I mean, at some point in time, that must be a very diluted version or a very dirty version of turmeric. But if you go to the grocery store and you go into the produce section and you go next to where the ginger is, you'll find a little turmeric root, and it's a tiny little thing. And I think it's around like $19 per pound. It's not a cheap root. You get a bang for your buck out, especially when it's just the intact version of itself, but it's not cheap. So as you look at each supplement before you buy, think of that. How many elderberries had to be grown to get this much juice out of each one to fill up this thing, times how many million?
Yeah.
And pretty soon you'll start to see why things are expensive. And also, if it's cheap, there's a reason. And it's probably not because it's high quality, unless they have like a backyard and it's a farmer's market and they're just growing their own elderberries. I am such a huge supporter of that anyway. I think we need to go back to that as much as possible.
Of course. So people who want to have a healthy life, let's say they come and see you and you create with them, but they're on a budget. I mean, like, so you were talking about like you have to choose a more expensive, the expensive one is the better one. Is there like are there any tips that you can give us to go to the grocery store or to buy any supplements? I'm sure you have a lot of tips with that for that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so it's difficult to advise overall, because what would be a real quick, easy thing for one person may not be for another. But I can say one thing for sure, and it's very inexpensive and it has so much value and it's very easy to do, is to grow your own broccoli sprouts. Growing your own broccoli sprouts has just a plethora of studies specifically on a chemical that are in the sprouts. And this is only one of many benefits of it, called sulforaphane. And it is, I mean, everything from anti-aging to internal balance, hormonal balance, just dense nutrients. Because if you think about a broccoli sprout, sprouts are so nutritionally dense, but they can grow without soil. They can grow without water. They can grow without light. Like, this is the stuff we should be doing because it will cost us pennies on the dollar. We'll get more out of it because it's more bioavailable, because it's the actual original version of itself. And you can grow those things all day and just simply freeze them and throw them into smoothies if you don't want it to like sit around and get old and, because you can't eat that many salads. But it's a very easy way to get a lot of nutrients without spending a lot of money and reconnect yourself with your food. There's something about holding our own food, growing our own food, that speaks directly to like the language of our cells. Like, we know this food, we trust this food. When we go out to eat or we grab something that's been prepared, our brains consciously, we're like, this is good. Subconsciously, the way that we've evolved through life, we have been designed to question whether or not that's going to be poison or not. So when you grow something, when you make something yourself, there is a piece that is an additive to that particular ingredient that your body goes, oh, okay, like this is good for us. And it will immediately, and because of that, absorb more of the nutrients and assimilate it and break it down better, because there's a trust component that's missing from most of our food interactions. So that's my step one. That would be like a blanket overall for everybody. It does a lot. But otherwise, I feel like the most important thing to do is to start, I would start, if without me or somebody like me, start journaling. Ask yourselves that question. Why do I eat this? How does this make me feel? What diet am I on? Has it been working? Why did I choose it? What is the motive and the different things? And get back, you like, you really are the expert on you. And I just want to give everybody permission to reconnect to that. You actually don't need Google. There was a time where we didn't have it. We had to walk outside and pray that if we picked the plant on the right and not the left, that we weren't going to die. That's in us. That DNA got passed down from that time, and it's still in us. You just have to turn it on.
Yeah. And also, I always say, when you go grocery shopping, it's easy. If you want to buy something ready, check. If you have more than 5 ingredients or ingredients that you cannot pronounce, don't buy them. The easiest way will be to buy only the fresh product, but I know that some people, they don't have time. Although I know that you teach people how to cook fast and on a budget easily. Can you talk a little bit about that for our listeners?
Yes. So one of my specialties, because although I do a lot of cooking, I'm not a chef, nor do I even really like to cook. I like to go play. Like, my happy is being outside and being with people and having conversation. So I have developed so many recipes over the years that are like as quick as I can possibly make them to get in and out of the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So one is just starting with things that I look at recipes for how many different pieces of equipment do I need? Do I have to cook it? And do I have to stand over it? Because if I have to babysit my food, I'm probably not making that recipe. If I can just quickly stir it, chop it, put it in a bowl and serve it, or just put it on a baking sheet, put it in the oven and walk away and come back, or put it in a pressure cooker, walk away, come back. Those are my kind of meals. And I feel like other people don't realize when they look at these recipes and there's like all these ingredients, even when they're fresh ingredients, it's like that much more chopping to do. Just keep it very simple. You'd be surprised at how good an avocado mashed up with a banana tastes with some sliced strawberries on top. It tastes like banana pudding. It has an interesting color, but if you can get past that, it's so easy and it's delicious. And there's just so many different examples of that. On my Instagram page, I do have a lot of recipes. It goes back years of recipes. Basically, every photo of food has a recipe below it, because I feel like it's a lot to go searching around for a blog and then like scroll through the bottom. I was like, let me just give people really quick references and an image of what it's supposed to look like at the end. And then maybe why would you choose this to eat? So that's the place I would send people to for quick, free, fast information on how to cook that's simple.
And you have a book as well with all those recipes in it,
I do.
right?
Yes.
So
And
what is the book? What's the name of the book?
It's called Effortless Real Food. It's available through me. And it's also right now we're in the process of like revamping it so that it's even easier to read, because the book does actually get into like the different herbal components of the food and why you eat onions or why would you eat dill, things like that. So I'm actually in the process of revamping that, and that one is going to release in September.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's like, I have to get that book. So we were also talking about, health, like they're like, okay, health and wellness tips. Is there like anything else, any other tips that you want to give to the listeners about health and wellness?
So many, but we'll keep it simple. So one thing I think that is really important, especially when it comes to mood and happiness, because we are, after all, talking about being happy, is connecting to the earth via grounding. So taking your shoes off wherever you are in the world and getting your feet on the ground and absorbing those free electrons, which is like charging your phone, except for that it's your body, and you actually get a huge release of different chemicals. I mean, it's just feel good energy, and it's free and it's easy, and it can be concrete because of the conductivity. It can be grass, it can be sand, it can be dirt. It doesn't matter. Get your feet on the ground, reconnect 5 to 10 minutes a day, especially in the afternoon when you need just like a little boost. I will go for a walk with bare feet just because I'm like, okay, I'm coming down. It's time to get back up again. And the other thing is to detox guilt and shame. We're all trying to figure out what best nutrition is for. I'm still, because as I grow and evolve, I'm learning more things too. But if every time I eat, I have guilt or shame around it or fear, I'm minimizing my body's ability to actually assimilate what I have given it. Find the peace, say a prayer over your food, have gratitude over your food, even though you don't know where it's coming from. That will change how your body absorbs those nutrients. So detox guilt and shame. Enough of that. You're listening to this show, which means you're already on the right path.
Yeah, yes,
you're doing the best you can. There's food available. So let's, little by little, you will figure it out. But to detox guilt and shame, I think is a big one. Yeah. And then one final really quick one is contrast showers, cold to hot, 30 seconds of each for 2 minutes. It completely rebalances your body and gives you like a boost of endorphins, and also it helps to modulate your immune system, which is really important right now.
Oh, that's great. I used to do that. It's like, it really helps. So yes. Where our listeners can find you, your website, your Instagram, give us like all the details.
Sure. So my website is wendymichelle.com, and that's Wendi with an I. So just wendymichelle.com. On that website, you can actually find everything from, I have just an ebook that is called Your Best Diet, which really means no diet at all, but just what's best for you. I have a wholeness course that I offer that actually goes through all the different elements of health and wellness that you can get if it's not in your budget time-wise or financially, for like one-on-one coaching. That wholeness course I created just for that specific scenario and situation. And then also I do coaching as well. My Instagram is at the number one, Wendi Michelle. And that's pretty much where I'm at social media wise. I do a lot of things behind the scenes, and so content has always been harder for me, but there's so much content already on Instagram that I send people there anyway.
Yeah, that's great. And then they can get the free recipes like on your Instagram, so which is amazing.
Yeah.
So we're about to close the show. I have to make a little, bye blah blah. Thank you everyone to listen, and thank you Wendi to be here. It was so interesting. Like I have so many questions. Like we didn't go through half of them. But if you want to find Wendi, go to her website. She offers much more than what we talked today. Really, WendiMichelle.com. And actually, even her Instagram account is linked to her website. So you can go through the website to her account. And besides that, I'll see you all next week. Just before we have 30 seconds, what makes you happy today, Wendi?
Family. I'm very thankful for family.
Family?
Yes.
Yeah. And be surrounded by love?
Yes, absolutely.
thank you so much to be with me today. And we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yes.
And everyone, go to her website. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day. Until next week, every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time and 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Bye for now.
What do you have to lose? Say yes. Be happy.